Welcome to day 10 of the Spring 2025 Web Technologies course. This is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. As far as topics for today, just kind of want to go over a couple miscellaneous topics real quick here, and then we're going to do a Chapter 5 lecture, Chapter 5 demonstration, kind of more demonstration than lecture, but we're going to go through a lot of the different concepts in Chapter 5. And then we'll go ahead and preview the Chapter 5 assignments as well. So first, as far as miscellaneous topics, one thing I wanted to point out is there was a couple questions on the Chapter 3 written test that were a little vague, either vague or actually incorrect. So what I did is I went ahead and adjusted. So if the answer was what I believe it's a correct answer, and that's the one you guessed, I gave you credit for that. If you ended up putting down a answer that the automatic scoring had as the correct answer, you would get it. So you had a 50% chance, I guess. There are always usually four different options there. So if you answered either one of those, then you'd get credit for it. Okay. So there was just a couple of those that I thought, one was really vague, and the other one I believe is incorrect. So I went ahead and corrected those for the students. Also, as far as assignments for week 2, I graded most of them. I think I have one student left I still need to grade some homework for. And then obviously, if you can turn in assignments late for a penalty. So if you didn't complete a lab or a homework assignment, go ahead and get them turned in. You'll be a small 10% penalty, but you don't want to miss out on them points. So please try to turn that in. And then also, I went ahead and made the hands-on test viewable, and that's due Wednesday, tomorrow by midnight. I also did a short video. I think it was almost 20 minutes, 20-minute long video on the hands-on test as well. Since it was the first one, I figured I better go through it. So it kind of depends on what the hands-on test look like. If I feel like there's some areas that really need to be explained, or especially like this is the first one, I'll go over it. But I'm going to try to actually go over the assignments a little more this semester, just to make sure students understand what's going on. So let's go ahead and get into Chapter 5 lecture and demonstration. And I'm going to bring up something here. So to start out, is this a circle or a rectangle, right? So the thing about on a web page, basically everything's a box. Okay, everything's a box. Everything's a rectangle. It's there are really no circles. Okay, even though you're viewing a circle, it's because we've made changes. In this case, we made CSS changes to actually make this look as appears a circle, right? But actually, if we go, I'm going to choose inspect here. I'm going to make this big. So that's one way to do is inspect. This is basically the developer tools, and we'll get it. I'll show you different things in here real quick as well. But so as you can see, and actually in this section where the elements are, if you choose this, as you can see, you've got on the left-hand side there, you've got a box around there, right? And actually this is the box right here. So this is your content, this is your padding, this is your border, and this is your margin, okay? So the reason you're seeing this as a circle is because of this right here. We're doing this border radius. If I change this border radius to 0, now we're back to a rectangle, okay? So this is just CSS that's taking a rectangle and making it appear as it's a circle, right? Basically, turning it into a circle, however you want to look at it. But the truth is, everything's a box. Every element in HTML is a box, okay? I I will go through a few things here. So, it might take you a while to get this set up, and don't worry about this developer tools if it's confusing. You don't need, it's just a handy tool for you to use. You're not going to be graded on it if, because I know there's a lot going on in here and it can be very confusing. And there's different ways to set this up within your browser. So like if you click these, the basic line here is where you have all the headings for the different areas here. If you click on this, you've got these different dock sides, right? So right here, I have it set up like that. You can choose that, right? Now there's three dots on here on this one, right? This is this is actually your responsive web stuff, but down here there's three dots, right? And it kind of going to be moving around, depends on where you choose this, right? So I have mine set up, and here I'll just show you all the different options here. Oh, that'll move all over the place. But this is what I have, and this is kind of for me, this is on the left. This is the web page, and then here's your HTML elements, then your CSS, and then we're looking at the box model, and actually on all of the elements that apply to this box model, okay? Or all the CSS, I should say, that apply. So we're going to look into this a little more here, but just kind of wanted to show you, making a point that, everything in HTML is actually a box, right? And HTML uses the box model. So let's go ahead and look at. So today we're going to describe the use of the box model, explain how the box model can be used to control the spacing between headings and paragraphs on a page, describe the properties for formatting block elements, height, margin, and padding, describe the effects of collapse margins, describe the use of a reset selector, describe the use of properties for formatting block elements, border, border color, border background color, describe the CSS features for formatting block elements, rounded corners, shadows, and background gradients. Okay, so we're going to go through. So here's your CSS box model, and you've got, and this is just a different view from as what we were just looking at within the Chrome Developer Tools. And actually, I think the Chrome Developer Tool is a little easier to understand than actually this image here. So you obviously you got your top margin, then you've got a top border, then you got your padding, okay. Then and then within there you've got your content within there, okay. Always remember that a border is between the margin and the padding. A border is between the margin and the padding. Margin is always on the outside, okay. Padding's always on the inside, closest to your content, okay. Let's see here. So this is just showing you a formula for calculating the height of a box. So the height of the box is going to be the top margin, plus the top border, plus the top padding, plus the height. So you're going to have three things that are going to go into, plus the bottom padding, plus the bottom padding, plus the bottom border, plus the bottom margin. So it's the margin, border, and padding for top and bottom, plus the height. Okay, the height of your content, right? So, and then for the width, you're talking about your left margin, plus your left border, plus your left padding, plus the width of your content, plus the right padding, right border, and right margin. Actually, I think it's a lot easier just to actually see that within the Chrome tools. So let me pull up. So here's your top margin, right? And so let's look might as well, since we're here, let's look into this a little bit. So the way this margin stuff here, so if you can see the CSS right here, right? You got margin 10, 20, 30, 40 pixels, right? So the way it works is the first number is going to be the top number, okay? So you start at top. So first one's top, then right, then bottom, then left, okay? So this is your top. This is your right. Over here is a 20. Down here is your 30. Okay. And then your last one is your left margin, which is 40. Okay. Now, this is margin with four different parameters here, right? Four different groups, right? So, but you can actually do it this way as well. And what happens here, we're going to see how this changes. So we've got the top. First, we've got top, right, bottom, left. So we get rid of this. What happens? Yeah, we get rid of this. It's kind of nice. This is one thing good about developer tools. You can just kind of change this stuff on the fly. You have to actually click in that box to do it, though. Okay. So if I just do that. So what's going to happen here? As you can see, this changed over here. All right. We don't have 10, 20, 30, 40 anymore. We have 10 and 20. So when you have just two, right? When you have just two, then it's going to be top and bottom is 10, left and right is 20. Okay. If you just have one, you can have just one, and one's going to just put it for, you have to go in here and do this, all right? Sometimes this don't work. Like, there we go. If you want to get rid of that, then it's just going to be 10 all across. Okay. Okay. So that's that. So then you just remember the border. Your border is going to be between the margin and the padding. Okay. And then here's your border. In this case, we've got a 2 pixels solid. You can have solid. There's different options. I'm going to show you different options for this. All right. And then here's a color. Right. And that's the border. That's here. Okay. And then now you can do a border where you have a border top or a border bottom, right? You don't have to have, the border don't have to be all the way around. You could have just a top border, bottom border, right? You can choose. Okay. I did want to point out, if you kind of see over here on the right-hand side, you can also, and I'll show you this here in a little bit as well. As far as like the margin that we were looking at, you can also do margin bottom, margin left, margin right, margin top. Okay. So this one here that we're doing originally, this is kind of a shortcut, right? This is more of a shortcut. Okay. But if there's a scenario, if there's a scenario where you only want a margin bottom and you don't want anything else, the only way you're going to be able to do it, right, is you're going to have to specify margin bottom, because it's not an option here in the shortcut to do just the bottom. If you just put one, if you just use one here, it's going to be, all the way around it. If you do top, it's going to be, it's going to be the top and bottom and the left and right, right? So if you want just a margin at the bottom, you're going to have to specify it like this. Okay, and we'll look into that a little more here in a bit. Just kind of want to point that out. And the same thing about with the borders as well. The borders and the border width, right? You got border top width, border left width, same thing there, right? So you can use the shortcut. You can use the shortcut if you're going to want everything to be the same, but if you just want a bottom or a right, width, you're going to have to use the border left width like this, right? And the same thing for padding. You're gonna, if you want just padding on the bottom or the top, you're gonna have to do it like this. Okay. So yeah, this is a nice little feature that you can just come in here and dynamically change things to take a look at it. Obviously, if you refresh the page, you're gonna go back to your defaults. Okay. So this don't save anything, right? This just saved, just in local RAM, so to speak, local memory. You refresh this page, it's going to go back to whatever was defined on that page, right? And this is what I had defined. All right. I'm going to be kind of very going through this quick. I don't want to say quick. I'm going to be skipping a lot of things because I just don't see it helping explain much of anything here. This is useful. How to set the width of a content area. So this, obviously we know what absolute is using pixels, our percent, right? And then we also have the idea of this auto, right? Which was the width based on its containing block. How do you set the height? You set the height like this, same thing. How to set the minimum and max width. And there are some certain circumstances where you want to set a minimum width or a maximum width on something. Okay. Now, when you see that on a page, it's basically a lot of times when you're, if you make your browser smaller, great, as far as like responsive web, when you change that around. So you might have something that, no matter what, you want it to be a certain width or a certain height, right? And this will make sure that you have a min or max in those cases, right? So just like we said, how to set a margin on a single side. So here's a margin top, and then you can just do, in this case, .5em, right? Here's a margin left, 1.em. And this is how you do, this is what we kind of just looked at. So we have a margin. So here's your margin. When you got just one here, it's all four sides, right? If you set two of them, the first one's going to be top and bottom, and the second one's going to be left and right. Okay. And then here, what's going to happen? Okay, yeah, and I kind of really didn't mention this one. So here, what's going to happen, since you've got three parameters here, three different ones, the first one is going to be top, right? The second one's going to be right, okay? And then the third one is going to be left, because you, right? Top, right, left, and then, here, let me go. I want to make sure that that is right. So if we just do, let's get rid of one of these. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, and 20. So the top one's going to be 10, right? The right one's going to be 20. The bottom one's going to be 30. And then since you didn't put so really, I don't like that's why I was concerned with what they said there. So basically what happens in this case, so you're always going to go, you're going to go clockwise, right? And so going clockwise, you got 10, 20, 30. Since you didn't do a fourth one, you didn't do one for the left side, it's going to use whatever you defined for the right side. Okay? And I think that was a little confusing there in the here. So, yep. So your top would be 5, right would be 1, bottom would be 2, and then your left one was going to be 1. Okay, so maybe to me that's a little confusing there. And then obviously we know how this is going to be. This is your top one. This is going to be right one. This is going to be bottom one, and that'll be your left one. And so padding, how to pad, single side. So obviously you can always do padding dot top to be a 0, or padding dot right, right, or padding left, or padding bottom, right. And then it's pretty much the same thing here. Same thing here as you do your margin. You do it the same way. Okay. Starting at the top, then the right, bottom, then left. Let's see here. Okay, let's bring up Visual Studio. All right, so in here, let's look at borders. So another thing I kind of want to point out here is, so what I'm doing here is for these borders, like you can see I got these class. So one of the benefits in maybe doing something like this, so I got 2 classes, right? I got border example and basic, these are all specific. This is the basic of the border example. I just kind of wanted to show you something here with that. So maybe one of the benefits in doing that is, and this has to do with chapter 5 stuff here, or what we're kind of, but just overall, that, this way you can actually, especially when you're doing something where you're going to be, you want things to be consistent across multiple things you're doing on a page. Like in this case, so I want all of these to have a margin and a padding and a width of the same thing. So basically, I'm defining this class stating, so I want all of them to be this, right? And then I want each specific one to have this. Instead of, sometimes, and it's easy to do, is you just have this in each one, margin, padding, width in each one of these, right? Well, this way it's easier, and I'm not just talking about for this example, but other stuff that you'll be doing as well, just in general for CSS. That, for consistency's sake and maintainability, if you have something that you want a consistent look and feel on multiple elements, you can do it like this. So you have one class that has like these things defined, and then you can just have your specific ones for that specific element, right? For this basic border, just that, right? So these apply to all of these. Just a nice little feature here. So here, let's go ahead and look at some of these borders. I guess we'll look at borders a little bit here. So it's probably best to look at the CSS on these, though. So this is a basic border, right? This is just 2 pixels, solid black. That's a basic border, okay? This is a rounded border, okay? Uses border radius. And that's what we did on that little circle, right? But that circle, we made it like, what did we do? We did make 50%, right? If we make that 50%, okay, that didn't quite work like I thought. That's okay. It's probably because of the content there. Okay. So, but this is for border radius. You can play around with this, right? You can change this. And these are good things to play around with. Yeah, save it. So it's going to be a little different depending on what you put in there. Yeah. So this is just round. And this is the correct thing for rounded corners, right? This is what you typically see. And that's, so, but here you're still doing a solid. Here you got a dashed one. So 2 pixels dashed. Okay. And then here's a dotted. Here's another option for dotted. And then you've got a double border here. This one is a groove border. So I know probably it's going to be hard, depending on what you're doing, and especially in this demonstration, groove and your inset and outset border, you know, depends on how big it is on your page and stuff, you know, how you'll view it. You know, they look pretty similar. Obviously, this one, that's going to be your groove border and your inset and your outset borders. And this is kind of a mixed border where you're just kind of setting, this we're just setting the border top, border right, border bottom, border left, right? This, we're setting the top one to solid, then dotted, dash, double, right? So these are good. You just play around with this, right? Play around with these. Let's see what else I want to do. Okay. Margin collapse. So this is an important concept. So what happens here, let me find the way this works. Is that margin will collapse. When you've got like a box, when you have 2 of them butting up against each other, right? So in this case, you say a margin bottom of 30 and a margin top of 60, right? Now, we're going to go look at the HTML on this. We're going to go look at this in our browser. And so just remember that the second box was a 60 margin and the first box is a 30 margin. So you'd think you would add those to, you know, what's going to be the space between them? You would think it would be 60 plus 30, right? But that's not the case. And let me show you that. So here we just got 2 divs. You got your first box and your second box. And I'm going to open this a live server here. So what we can do, maybe just right click and do a inspect. As you can see here, here's the first element. And here's the second element. So here it does have your bottom being 30, right? It does have your bottom being 30. Margin top 30. Margin top. Oh, well, see what it did is, here, let me go back to our code here. I want to make sure I'm saying this right again. Margin top, margin bottom, margin top on both. Okay. So if we go here, okay, yeah. So So what this does is like, so here on this first box, you see you've got your margin you're going to have your margin bottom being 30 here, right? On this first box, right? Now, for your second box, you said you want your margin bottom being 60, right? So here's 60. But as you can see, it's taking up the margin in the first box. So basically, what it's doing is it's whatever's kind of the biggest, right? And in this case, the second box had 60, and even though we did have on our first box, right, in our first box, you have to click on this. I always want to click on that. You got to click on this to see it. Our margin was 30 here, right? So our margin's 30 here, but we didn't add 30 plus 60. We just used what's in that second box, right? And that second box had 60 up top. So it just uses the 60 and not the 30. So it doesn't add those together to increase the space, so to speak. Sorry, I know that I made that a little confusing, but that's what the whole margin thing is about. What else do I want to look at here? Let's go ahead and look at different backgrounds. What do I have in here? Okay. All right, so here we just got a background color, right? Just a basic background color. The second one here, we're using an image. So I just downloaded an image, right? And so we set the background image using this URL tag, right? And wherever your image is. In my case, I have mine up a level as far as directory structure. Okay. Now this one here is a background repeat. So basically this one here is the same as this one below it. It's just this one's repeating. Okay. By doing repeat. Okay. Now it's going to be within that, when you do repeat, it's going to be, I'm repeating within just the, with the whole box model, just within this element thing. You can obviously do a repeat on the whole body of your page, right? If you're doing a repeat element on a whole body of your page, it's going to cover the whole page, right? I'm just doing this repeat element on this area, right? And this is, we're using the same one. It's just no repeat on that one, right? The next one after that, this is a linear gradient, and you define it as linear gradient. And then, as you can see, it's lighter on the left, darker on the right. So you're doing two left. So two left, here's your darker side. Here's the first one's your darker. The second one's the second one's a lighter color, right? So it's darker on the left, and then it's going to get lighter on the right. Okay, and then this next one here is to bottom left, right? So here's to bottom left, and it's going to go from it's actually to bottom left is going to actually use the top one here. It's going to be the second one, and as it goes up to the right, right, it's going to become the more purplish color, right? And then here's a multicolor gradient. And then you starting at the bottom. So this one's at the top, right? The red, the one farthest on the right, the violet, it's going to be at the bottom. Okay. So that's some backgrounds. What else do we want to look at? Looked at borders, margin collapse, backgrounds. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else is in here that's worth looking at. So, yeah. So if you want another thing here, because I didn't have this example. So we looked at repeat and no repeat, right? We looked at repeat and no repeat. And then repeat X will repeat horizontally, right? So if you want to, yeah. So if you want to just kind of, on the left or right hand side or, anywhere on the page, but vertically, horizontally, you're going to repeat X. If you want it vertically up and down, you're going to repeat Y, right? Vertically. Background position, left top, okay. So different positions that you can do, left top, center top, background position, 90% from top, 90% from bottom. How to control image scrolling. So you can use the background attached for scroll or fixed, so you can actually scroll an image. And basically what that's doing is, it's not actually scrolling the image itself. It's as you scroll on your page, it's going to keep on coming. It's going to come with you on that page. And, actually it's a very good thing to use for like navigation. Sometimes you have a navigation at the top. You can sit there and have that scrolling with you as you go down the page, right? So that can be very beneficial. Okay. Here's just an accessibility guideline. Don't use a background color image that makes the text that's difficult to read. So we looked at the linear gradient already. So basically you have your direction and then you have just your different colors, right? So yeah, so this here is going to do, let's see, white to write white and then red. And then you're doing red, white, and blue. Okay. All right. So I think what we'll go ahead and do now is go over these homework assignments. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over the Chapter 5 homework. So just the basics here. You want to create an HTML page, index.html, add a wrapper div. We've done this a couple times already, so it's not telling you how to do it. So it's just telling you to center the wrapper div on the page using left and right margins, right? You know how we use the margin auto there, right? So same thing you want to do here. You want to create a header, a navigation, a main, and a footer sections. Populate each section with relevant content. And what this is basically telling you here is you don't do this in each section, but throughout the page you need to have at least have 5 navigation links, right? So it's saying use HTML headings. And just remember, headings, you want to make sure you kind of use hierarchy, right? So H1's the biggest one. And so when you're creating a page, you don't want to just grab any heading. You say, I don't want something that big. I'm going to have heading, 4, and and then be putting 4 and then a 3, then bouncing around and then putting a heading 1. You want to follow the hierarchy. Really, you should start with a heading 1 and go down through the list, right, from a hierarchy. Heading 1 down through heading 6, depending on how many headings is relevant for your page. Navigation links. It's telling you just have some navigation links on your page, and to use your href. So navigation links, you're talking about anchors, right? Your A tag anchors, right? And that's talking about your href of a hash or a pound sign, right? And what this is just a dummy link, and it doesn't go anywhere. There are benefits to doing this that we'll see later on, especially if you're using JavaScript and stuff. You might have a link where you might have a link on a page where you want to do some JavaScript before you do something else, all right, and before you go to some other link or something, or there's multiple different reasons, but that's one of the benefits of uses of using a dummy link is to be able to add some JavaScript to that, right, to that link. So also you want to include some paragraphs, an image. Here it's asking you to do a phone number, a home address, an email address. This doesn't have to be, if you want to put your own, that's fine. Our repositories are private, so it's not like you're showing it to the world. But if you want to just put fake data in there as well, that's fine. And then also it's having have you put social media icons, okay? Basically image links. So let's go and here's one site that you can use. And you can get them from wherever you want. I'm just going to show you one way to possibly do this. So there's this flat icon site, flaticon.com. And you can go in here and just do social media. And bring these up. Now, obviously, this site, like a lot of other sites, they'll have some things you can grab for free if you really want to, all the functionality and stuff, they're wanting you to pay some money for, right? So, but in this case, we can use some of these for free. This is And like I said, this is just one option. If you want to get your icons a different way, you can just search the internet on images and so forth, but this is just one way. So here's like a Facebook one. I'm going to click on this one. What you can do here on this, right? So obviously if you try, it says free here, but if you click this and it's going to want you to do this. I haven't actually done this like this. Let me see what happens here on this. Okay. So you can just go ahead and download it that way. The other is you can just copy two different things. You can do it that, or you can just copy this, right? If you want to copy this, you can also do that. It'll copy your clipboard. If you want to bring it into Paint, if you, right, you can bring it into Paint. You can Paint, and then it's on your clipboard. I'm just going to paste it in there. Okay, so that's one option. And then obviously, I went ahead and downloaded it as well. The first one downloads it. Let's see. So there you go. So best just to download it. Make sure you put those images. You know, some people from the assignments had some little problems with the images for some reason. You know, you just need to make sure that within Visual Studio, you should have those. You should see those images within your directory structure within Visual Studio. Once you check in your code, if it's not, if you don't have them there, they're not going to. When you check in your code, it's not going to be in your repository, your GitHub repository, and when I grab it, I won't see any images. So I had a few of those where the images never were available to view because they weren't included. Right? You got to make sure you include those. So, and then it's saying use image link. So what you're basically going to do here is you're going to have a anchor tag, right? And then you're going to have an image within that anchor tag, right? So you have your anchor tag, then you have your image, so that when you can click on that, right? You can make those images, whatever link you want to use is fine. You can have it go to Facebook. Well, that's what you probably should do, right? Have it go into Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, etc., right? Then go ahead and use the normalize.css. And we've done this before. You just want to make sure that when you're using this, you want to make sure this is before you use your custom CSS that you created, right? So you want to do your normalize.css first before you do your custom one. And as far as the link in the head section of your HTML. So here it's telling you to set the custom margin and padding on at least 5 elements on your page. All right. So then in review, different options on setting your margin. You can use the kind of the shortcut for margin using, just one parameter there, or up to 4, or you can do margin.left, margin.right, top or bottom, margin top or margin bottom, right? Same thing with padding, right? It works the same way. Add a border to the bottom of your headings, right? So border bottom, you're going to do border bottom to the bottom for all your headings on the page. Have a little border at the bottom of them. Dashed border, right? Add a gradient background to the header. So you have a header tag, right? Your header tag up here. So for your header tag, go ahead and add a gradient background. Add a gradient background to the body. So the whole body of so you want to probably be careful on how you create that because it's going to be pretty substantial. So add that to your body. Set custom heights and widths for your paragraphs, your P tags. And then go ahead and validate your HTML. And validate your CSS. And guess that's about it on that. Does it ask you? I thought somewhere. Oh, custom color. So it's telling you get a custom color. So when we're talking about custom color, you can come out here to like HTML color picker, and then, you know, obviously, so you can click on these different things, do a different custom color, right? Instead of just green, blue, red. So, you know, do these color pickers to come up with a custom color. All right. And you have different shades and stuff. So that's one way to go ahead and do a custom color. All right. So, you know, I think this is pretty straightforward for the most part. And then here is the HTML Chapter 5 lab. And so what this is asking you is to download images for this. You know, come up with your own images, or, you know, you can actually create them, anything you want to do. But what you're wanting to do here is you're going to create like an image for a home button, a product button, and an order button. It's not really a button, you know, it's saying button here. It's basically just an image that we're going to kind of like treat as a button. And it's saying to make it a GIF, you know, that's fine. You can always bring a button of one kind into like Paint and save it as another. And that's not as big of a deal to me if it's a GIF or not a GIF. But so it's basically you're going to have a home button, product button, order button, right? And so what that is kind of this more like, you know, like towards the top of your page, right? So you're going to create a nav element towards the top of your page that contains 3 images. Okay, one uses navigation links, all right? And so create an index.html, a product.html, and an order.html page, right? And then when you click on your GIF, right, your home button, so to speak, then it's going to go ahead and go to index.html, right? And same for the product or order. It's telling you to set the image height to 50 and image width to 200. And so like I said, this is going to be nav elements, so these are going to be at the top of the page. You can use whatever you want for these. You know, you can use something that actually looks like navigation home button or whatever. If you want to do something more artistic, that's fine as well, artistic or creative. But, you know, you choose what you want for that, right? So write HTML to place an image. So it's just ask you to create an image on a page, 100 pixels by 650 pixels. So actually, if we go down here to the bottom, it kind of helps a little bit to see that this isn't really showing you everything. Okay, this is the index page, and it's just showing you. So this is something, you know, similar. You know, it don't have to be that close to this, but just basically showing you that, you know, you've got your navigation up here. You've got this is going to be your home button and an order, then your product button, and then an order button. This has got a cart, right? So it's just showing you this. However you want to do it, that's fine. Whatever they look like. This banner here, it's really referring more to this banner as being that large image. Okay, that's how I look at it. This says click to enlarge. You don't necessarily, okay, this is another one there we're going to look at. Probably hover would be a way to do this. This one here's showing a left image background and a right image background. Oh, top image. Okay. So here you can also create, so it doesn't really show all of these, but you'll have an index.html, product HTML, order. There's really not going to be anything in here. You just put the title, whatever. So when you click these different buttons from the index.html, it's going to go to the, right? Obviously, this is going to just go to itself. But if you click the product button, it'll go to a product HTML page. The order button will go to order HTML page, right? Now that section below where it showed the banner, that's going to be this one here. Okay, that's going to be that one here. Now this thumbnail, this is one it was kind of actually showing you at the bottom here. And it says click to enlarge. You don't really have to do a click, event necessarily, but maybe hover. You can do hover. So we've done hover a little bit already. So you do on hover, you kind of want to swap the image. So you're going to have to research that one a little bit. That's when you can look into yourself a little bit. So you're going to create a thumbnail of some image that's 100 pixels by 150 pixels wide. And then it should link to a larger image. So basically what you can do is hover over that, right? On hover, then it should grow. You can just do a swap, or you'll swap it with an image that's bigger, okay? Just, you can research that one a little bit, okay? We already went through the image links here. How to use a table as a guideline, okay? Image backgrounds. Okay, so then, yeah, so this is design, this is going to be that separate page, right? So it's showing you down here at the bottom, it's showing you the left one, the vertical one, and the horizontal one. So create a separate page for each, okay? And then do where you've got a repeat down the left side of the browser window. And then here you're going to do it across the top, right? One's for vertical, one's for horizontal. One's an X and one's a Y, right? We did a quick look at that. So go ahead and look into that, research that a little bit, how you would do that. Design a web pages. Okay, so that's that. Practice your CSS. So you're going to just do some basics here. Choose a color that you like, okay? I'm not going to go through each one of these. It's just kind of telling you what to do here for the CSS. So this lab's, this is Chapter 5 lab, but it's also including things from Chapter 4 as well. So it's telling you use different types of CSS selectors, right? You have your multi, you have a parent-child, right? There's different kinds of selectors. So make sure that you use the different types of selectors on your page somewhere, all right? And then use different font families. Use the different types of font families. I don't know where that came from. But okay. All right. So that's that. Let's go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, and then I'm going to go through the written test a little bit and review that a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Chapter 5 written test a little bit. I'm not going to answer these questions, but I'm going to go ahead and, we'll go over it a little bit, all right? So in the box model, the border, right? So where is the border at? So obviously you can go and use the Chrome developer tools and see where it is, right? So you got your margin, border, padding, and then you have your content, right? So you can obviously use Chrome tools to answer that question right there, right? The next one here, by default, the element of a box model. So remember when we had like a block element, right? So you have a block element, there's different ones that are block elements. They take up the entire contents that they can. So if you just have a page and, let's say you had a body and you just have an H1 tag, right? And that's a block level element, right? So you put a heading there. What happens? It takes up that whole row, right? The whole width of that page, right? Now, as far as height, how much does it take up? So, you can actually go create one and look at it and how much is going to take up. Does it take up the whole height of the page, or does it just take up what's necessary for that heading, right? For that content. So I'm kind of giving you hints here along the way. Um, so to calculate the height of a box, right, when using the box model, so what's included, right? What's included? You know, pretty much everything's included, right? So and we've already done this a couple times, so you should be able to answer this question about the margin. So here you've got three different ones, right? So remember how that worked. You start top, right? Top. Then what's next? So you're gonna start at the top, and it's gonna go to clockwise, right? And then what if you don't have only, like in this case, you only got three, you got four. What happens? What's the fourth one going to be? Fourth one's going to be the same as its adjacent one, or other side, so to speak, right? So um, the code that follows, this would be okay. Easy to figure out. So some of this border stuff, and also you can play around, while you're doing this test. It'll take a little bit of time, but you've got your different borders here. You can always play around with. This is W3 schools, obviously, for borders. Try it yourself. You can get in here and you can play around, right? You can add things, you can change things as well, right? To help you with the test. All right. So we really didn't talk about this much. Well, this is pretty much kind of like the normalized stuff, but a reset selectors usually has to do with. I don't want to give you all the answers. What am I looking for here? Oh, okay. Now this is showing jQuery. We don't do that one. Well, you can figure that out yourself. What's a reset selector? What's a reset selector going to refer to, right? What's it going to do? If you use a reset selector for your page, you need to set what? You can just research that, a reset selector. When you set the border of a block element, you can set what? So go back to your borders, right? What can you set? If you set a background color for the body of a page to blue and you don't set the background color for the section within the page, the background color section will be, So what happens when if you set the background color for the page, what happens to everything else on that page? The other backgrounds of everything else on that page. Pretty straightforward. By default, if you specify a background image for a block element, the image will be yeah. Well, obviously, when you're repeating, you have to state something's repeated, right? So in this case, by default, if you specify a background image for a page, you're not going to be repeating anything, right? So you can pretty much get rid of those second two answers, last two, not the second two, last two answers there. It's going to be your first ones there, right? And as you see, most of the time, if we want something in the center page, we have to do something to get it in the center of the page, don't we? So, a little hint on that. Which of the following CSS formatting can you not apply to boxes? Okay. So you'll have to look into this. We've done rounded corners, right? We looked at that. What else can you do, right? We did at least two out of four of these just today. So process elimination there on that, and you can do a little research as well. So here, it's asking you about your radius. So you got some rounded corners, and then you've got a regular corner there. Yeah, you're just gonna have to practice. You just cut and paste, practice, figure the answers out there, right? Which CNS snippet would you set the border shadow? Same thing there. Go ahead and take that out of the code and practice and see what the answers are. So a lot of these, I think, in this test, especially this test, as opposed to some of the others, you can sit there, you can practice, you can, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you can use these. You can take these out, put it in the editor. You can use W3 Schools, or you can use your Visual Studio, and you should be able to get a lot of these, right? If the bottom margin of one element is 1.5 and the top margin element is below it is 1 em, how large is the margin? So this is what we were kind of talking about earlier about the margin collapse thing, right? So this is all about margin collapse. So what happens when you've got two overlapping margins like that? What happens? So this is only 15 questions on this one. And like I said, a lot of this stuff you can just take the code out, cut and paste it, put it in yours, use W3 Schools, whatever it takes. And I think you spend a little time on this one here. I think you should do pretty good on this written test here. So that's about all I have. Anybody have any questions about anything?